A call from line engaged at the Madison County Jail.
Hello. Chad and Lori believed they had this mission for this end of the world times.
Are you okay?
The combination of those two together was just like gasoline on a fire.
Lori's like gasoline, Chad is the match.
This story is insane.
There's religion, sex, murder.
We got one subject down.
Multiple marriages, multiple deaths. 2 kids are at the center of it.
Lori started to tell people that her kids had become zombies.
Her idea was it was for her to get rid of the zombies.
I don't know how someone can actually believe that bull.
Is JJ safe?
He is safe and happy. I know exactly where he is.
On January 26, 2020, the weather in Kauai, Hawaii was as you might imagine. Perfect. Sunshine, breeze, and temperatures near the 80s.
10-4, advise them that we have a search warrant.
But when 2 newlyweds were pulled over by the Kauai Police Department, that Hawaiian paradise took a turn.
Step up. We have a search warrant for you guys. Cars, belongings.
And the story behind that search warrant is a complicated and sordid web.
I remember in 2019, the very first week covering this case, trying to explain it to people and having to draw stick figures on a napkin.
And it is one of those cases that's so entwined and complex.
We're talking about a body that had been exhumed in Springville, Utah. We're talking about 2 missing kids from Rexburg, Idaho. Obviously, there's an Arizona connection as well with these 2 families that came together.
A series of mysterious deaths, multiple marriages, and 2 missing children, all wrapped in fringe religious beliefs that few understand and even fewer can explain. And at the center of it all, 48-year-old mother Lori Daybell. But to understand Lori Daybell, it's important to rewind to one of her previous marriages, when she was Lori Vallow.
Lori Vallow was someone that a lot of moms looked up to. Parents were like, oh, that's the cool mom. Like, we wish we were more like her.
She met a man named Charles Vallow back in the early 2000s, married him.
He had told me he met the love of his life and he was going to marry her and bragged about her a lot. He was infatuated. He'd do anything for that girl. There was something about her, a sense that made my antennas go up a little bit. When I talk to people, I look at them in the eye and she would look away and it was like she was talking to someone behind me or something.
She had had kind of some rough patches on her first few marriages, and that 4th marriage was kind of the dream.
Charles traveled a lot for work. He owned his own business. He was often in Houston, Texas. And with that, Lori, kind of took the role here in Arizona, raising JJ and Tylee.
They were successful financially. People looked up to her as her mother and also as a woman that had a strong faith.
Tylee was Lori's daughter from one of her previous marriages to Joe Ryan. He's passed away. JJ was just 7 years old. He was adopted by Lori and Charles.
JJ was a young boy with autism. Tylee was a teenager.
Tylee and JJ were best friends. She treated him as if that was her own son. JJ looked up to Tylee.
With 2 kids at home, ages 7 and 16, Lori Vallow was also deeply embedded in her faith.
Depending on who you talk to, some people describe her as a religious fanatic. Some people described her as just a typical religious member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
The marriage was really good for at least a decade. They were together for quite some time, and everything seemed pretty normal up until the end of 2018, beginning of 2019.
Charles noticed Lori changing a little bit, and their marriage kind of got rocky.
Charles actually went to the police in January of 2019.
Charles comes home from a work trip. He gets to his house in Chandler, Arizona, and nobody's at the house. The kids aren't there, Lori's not there.
I can't get in touch with my kids.
How old are your kids?
6.5 and 16.
How long have you been trying?
2 days. She took all the money out of her bank account today. My truck is gone from the airport. She's lost her mind. She thinks she's a resurrected being and a god and member of the 144,000.
Which is in reference to the book of Revelation in the Bible that talks about 144,000 people that will usher in the second coming of Jesus Christ at the end of the world.
They don't know where Lori's at, but she's a grown woman. She's allowed to go somewhere.
I love her to death. This is killing me, officer. Our 13th anniversary is next month. We've done that.
It was a totally different person than he thought the woman he married was.
Yesterday was a threat to kill me. She said, "You're not Charles. I don't know who you are, what you did with Charles, but I can murder you now with my powers."
That's kind of the beginning of where everything starts falling apart. The next morning, Lori ends up at the police station, and she kind of turns the pages on him.
Yesterday, I got in an argument with my husband on the phone, and he was in Texas working, and I found some stuff that he'd been doing, so he was really defensive. And so I took the kids. We spent the night in a hotel because I knew he was coming home. I caught him cheating, and I had evidence, and I told him about it.
He tries to commit her to a mental health hospital to get an evaluation, and that's kind of where things started spiraling in this case.
Gilbert Police Department.
See, my name is Charles Vallow. I've got an order to hold my wife, Lori Vallow. She's lost her mark.
Okay.
Trying to get Lori committed didn't work, and in February of 2019, between her erratic behavior and alleged death threats, Charles Vallow had seen enough.
He said he was getting a divorce, and I'm sorry, Charles, hope y'all can work it out.
He's writing in divorce filings about how she is calling him by a different name, how she believes that his body was taken over by a spirit, how she's now trying to lead the 144,000 as we get closer to the end of the world.
Lori's bizarre beliefs were shared by another man she befriended in October of 2018.
His beliefs did extend beyond the doctrine of the LDS Church, that's for sure.
It sounds like their relationship was pretty passionate right away.
From that moment, Chad was infatuated with Lori.
An explosive love.
Lori's like gasoline, and Chad is the match.
A series of murders.
Lori's husband dies.
Charles was shot.
And then Chad's wife dies.
And a story you won't believe.
Chad and Lori believed they had this mission for this end of the world times.
Now police say, where are these two kids?
I know exactly where he is. He's perfectly fine.
But what really happened?